Hey everybody, this is Ryan E. Louie, and this is the Digg series. This is episode 9. I know I've been promising you this for quite a while. I am just, extremely happy to have our tonight's guest, and it is David Selzer. He comes all the way from Wadsworth, Ohio. And so we're going to interview him today. Shout out. Oh boy, gosh. Today's shout out is going to go to the 8th grade percussionist at AI Root. Again, you folks are an inspiration, and this podcast, as long as you folks keep listening to it, right? It is nice. So that is my shout out. Anyway, I enjoyed your comments and your responses to the last podcast, which was, about the Air Force, United States Air Force Band one. And so anyway, but I'm excited about this one. I've been looking forward to interviewing David for quite a while here. So I'm glad that we were able to hear. So welcome to the podcast, to the Digg series. David, how you doing?
Good. What's going on?
Man, just hanging. And so, which is all cool. Hey, the reason that I thought it would be a great idea to have you as a guest on the Digg series. Yeah, man. Is because I think your story is compelling in the sense that, we've been, you started studying with me probably back in 6th grade-ish. That sound about right? 6th grade?
8th, I think.
Was it 8th?
It was 8th grade, yeah.
Were you at, oh my God, how about that? Were you at CIS?
Yep.
And then, did you study with me your last year at CIS?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
So then that would be, thank you very much, your 6th grade. I remember. And
happy to forget.
Well, yeah, right. Our history goes way back, because I remember, you were studying with a couple of teachers at Wadsworth Music, even though you were taking from those two teachers. At separate times, I still taught you at CIS.
Yeah. So
I always thought it was a challenge, working with multiple teachers. But what was it like for you? And you could be really frank and honest about I always try and have a rule that when you're with me, you do what I do. When you're with them, you do what they do. But
right.
So what was? Do you remember? That was a long time ago.
It was, man. Definitely wasn't yesterday.
Yeah, man. No doubt.
I think, when I was still learning a lot about everything about whether it's snare drum, whatever I'm playing, confusing because you're being told, you're not like that, one thing's completely different than another, but, the clarity of, what's being taught is not as you're telling me all this stuff and then I go to a double stroke roll, the whole argument about that. So, confusing and definitely not as productive to my educational growth as I probably could have been had I just only taken lessons,
Sure.
Sooner or whatnot. But
no, I think that, timing is really everything. And sometimes a natural progression from going from one teacher to another teacher also can prepare you for a different style of education.
yeah.
And as it comes out, and I knew both of those other teachers. They're fine teachers. They're great, man. They do a great job, And so anyway, it was around that 6th grade year that we crossed you over. And so, do you remember any of what was some of the differences from going to Wadsworth Music and what it was like? In the building there, and what kind of stuff you were learning, what kind of instruments you were learning on, and then coming over to the studio, which was then in the basement, right?
Yeah, the old studio in the basement.
Right,
yeah.
It was in the basement. So what was some of those differences? Do you think?
It's kind of like growing up. It's you go from being in a elementary school building to going to the next building up, or being in middle school. So it's, I think it was, I'd almost outgrown the studios that I was in before Wadsworth Music. Not saying that they were bad, but it was just, basic, and, there was drum set, and, whether we were doing rudimental stuff just on the snare of that drum set, or I was playing something on the drum set. It was vastly different coming over to your studio, the old one in the basement.
Yeah.
I remember the first time, just come in the front door. I'm like, are you sure?
Right.
But going down to the basement, you had everything. I was like, oh my gosh, you had concert snare drum set up, you had marching snare drum set up, you had your timpani out, you had marimba, you had vibes, and then on the other side of the island, you had
that's right, yeah.
2 drum sets set up, and then you had your practice pad hangout spot there with the little TV in the corner.
Oh yeah, man. It is, it was very much different in the basement than it is in good old Studio Louie in the building now. And but I like to bring up the question because for those who've studied under different teachers, which I always encourage. I mean, I think that getting more than one opinion is a positive thing, is not necessarily a negative thing. But I think that one thing that I always thought was unique about the studio was that the gear that you got to play on was like really the same gear I go out and tour and play with.
Right, it's your stuff.
Yeah, but it's like, sometimes I think when you go to a music shop, not that we have anything against music shops. Matter of fact, I mean, I grew up in taking lessons from a music shop, something like Woodsy's or Wadsworth Music. The teachers there were great. But I also know that the gear that you play on was a little bit different.
Oh, yeah, it's not. It's not stuff you go to the store and buy the cheap stuff. It's it's everything you're endorsed with. It's like top of the line stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So set aside from the going down into the basement and just so I think that those who are listening kind of know the background of David, and as far as he is. My colleague and my peer at Wadsworth and the Drumline, and for Medina people too. He's come in and helped us out at tent camps and also on the auditions as well as intense camp. So I mean,
and then when you can't run the sound before a competition,
that's right.
You need some extra ears.
That's right, man. 'Cause I tell you, I am. David was the one that called me a boomer, by the way. Thank you very much. A boomer, that's me. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So we're still going back in time here a little bit, and we're talking about, from your middle school, lessons to perhaps your high school. And so I know it's like looking back. So when you're in middle school, were there any highlights that you can remember about taking lessons and then being in the middle school, and what do you think was one of the main things that I had you working on, if you can remember? That's so long ago, but it's
that was a long time ago. That was 13 years ago at this point. It's a long time. I think at first, obviously, I think the middle school years are, looking back, and it makes sense. It's more.
Yeah. When did you get your double stroke roll? Remember what grade you're in when you got your double stroke roll?
Yeah, I remember cooking with a double stroke roll in 8th grade.
Yeah.
I remember, we're in that one room down the hall, and it's the whole class, and I'm just chopping a double stroke roll, and how do you do that? I'm like, oh, you just do it,
Right.
But I think the middle school years of lessons, was a lot of technique and how to hold the sticks, how to set up the snare drum you're playing in front of, or the mallets or whatever you're playing. And I think a lot of it was just the fundamentals, which you and I teach that all the time now.
But for sure, yeah. And then making that transition into high school. So they just like Medina and Strong's, or even Wadsworth. We do have chair placements there. So in 7th grade, what chair were you?
First chair.
Oh, first chair. 8th grade.
First chair.
First chair, right, yeah, which is cooking, and then like when you got up into the high school, when you came into audition, for marching band, what'd you audition for?
I auditioned for Snare as a freshman.
Yeah. Did you get Snare?
I did.
Yeah. How, like, from that 8th grade year transitioning into your freshman year, I mean, did you spend a lot of time practicing or not a lot of time practicing? You know, kind of, explain. Because, I mean, all of us were, you folks that are listening, you go through the same thing too. So, I mean, it's like,
I think for me, it was a lot of, 8th grade year, Wadsworth, we do 8th grade, band night. We play with the high school band and, just like the first time you get to, for me, it's like the first time I got to play marching snare drum with like the high school band.
Yeah.
8th grade, you're like, oh man, I was like, I love it. It's pretty cool.
Right.
And then, I went to all the other football games, I'd go watch the Drumline warm up, I was always checking out what they were doing just because, it intrigued me. And, you
Right.
talked about it in class and, this is why we do this. This is, what we're doing in 8th grade class, how it eventually translates into marching band and to a higher level. I practiced a bunch. I remember, I think I got the packet, Fu Manchu and double beat, and I was just cooking. I was cranking on it all 8th grade year.
Yeah, I mean, just like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes.
Probably more than that. I think, it was whenever I had a spare second, for a while. I'd go up to my room, I'd do all my homework after school. I was a 3-sport athlete, middle school and
Right.
some of high school, and, I'd get all my stuff done and I'd go practice. I'd
You played 3 sports?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what were they?
Cross country, basketball, and track.
Yeah, nice.
So, yeah, I just, I had a practice pad set up in my room with my music stand and my binder and just go play,
Nice. Yeah. I was talking to one of my students today, and we were trying to increase, he wants to make the snare line, and he's trying to increase his time practicing. So we're trying to find creative ways of like practicing. Were there any like tricks that you used like to so that, because I mean we know it's about high rep, like getting good repetitions in, but sometimes getting high repetitions can be incredibly monotonous and a little bit. Was there any things that you did to kind of like, if you're going to spend 35 minutes, 40 minutes on singles and doubles? I mean, how did you watch TV at the same time, or did you just stand in front of the practice?
I guess it depended on what I was doing. If I was trying to do something where I was trying to chop out and just, get faster 8s, I'd just sit there and I do it now. In the year 2024, I sit and I do it in my apartment now. I just sit in front of the TV and I'm just chop out. Or I'd put some headphones in, listen to a song and just play 8s to the song, until the song was over. And then I'd pick a different song and I'd do it again. Or I'd play double beat or... stuff like that. It's not about just playing the notes on the page or, I have to learn this because, we're going to play it, just the idea of just trying to get better hands. A lot of it too, when I was in 8th grade, we talk a lot about, not a lot, but, we talk about drum corps and, the things we take from the highest level of, marching percussion and how we try to implement it.
Right on, man. Yeah, we're talking about you see something that is great that you want to try and emulate what that is until right. Another student until it just becomes your own thing, and then it's your own thing.
Yeah.
Hey, so now that you're a freshman in high school, and you're on the snare line.
Yep.
Was it cool to be on the snare line as a freshman?
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Were there any like unforeseen pressures that you had? What do you think? Snare line was pretty good back then.
We were pretty good.
Good snare line, man.
We had 6 snares.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me it was, I think because that my 8th grade year of just repping stuff and, learning what we do in high school before I was even there. And I remember when I was in 8th grade, even before our tech camps that we had, I was, I got in contact with Cameron, who was going to be the center snare when I was in high school, and I'd go up to the high school after school, and I think we did it like once a week for like maybe a couple months. We'd play Fu Manchu, we'd go through the exercises, and he'd just help me out. So it was cool to have someone like that to be able to help me out. Shout out Cam.
Yeah, right. Cam. I think the cool thing is that, good leaders, great leaders, they find a way to inspire and to kind of help the underclassmen out for sure, and I think it speaks strongly of the individual. And then, for sure, as you matriculated up, Andy, you certainly gave back and still are to this day. So, now you're in high school, you're snare line, you're cooking, you're going through your sophomore, junior year. When did you become center?
My junior year.
Your junior year. So you were center for 2 years.
2 years.
What was it like to be center snare of the Wadsworth Drumline? The experiences, was it all fun, or was there some hard times?
It was definitely hard times. I remember my junior year, it's the first year, and I think, sophomore year we had obviously, we don't compete at Wadsworth, but, we had a good line. We played a lot of hard stuff, and it was a lot of fun,
Right.
Trevor and, that whole crew. And,
nice.
And it's like, okay, it's my turn to step up, fill the shoes, and, it was very different. It was the first time I'd ever, been put in a leadership role of that magnitude, So, the learning curve of figuring out how to be a role model and be a leader, and not just, verbally and, off the field, but just like, being a player, like, I'm in the center of this group, everyone's expecting me to be the best player in this group.
Yeah, right.
Definitely, days where, people don't listen, or things aren't going well, or we don't sound good, and, you feel like everything's going wrong and imploding, but then, taking a step back and,
For sure. Yeah. So, can you remember, like, through your high school experience? We'll get to what comes after that. But right? But what was like one of the most fun times that you had in marching band in high school? And I know maybe it's a little bit hard to sum it up into a couple of things, but just one of the great fun times that you had.
Man, that's so hard. There's so many fun things that we did. We were such a tight group.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of my closest friends still to this day.
For sure. Like Deb.
Deb.
Yeah, man.
Nix and Callie.
Yeah.
Boy. I think performing at a high level is always fun.
Nice.
Playing music that, is fun to play, and that we sound good playing, because I think we got to a point where, we knew if it sounded good or not, and when it hit.
Yeah.
So I think for me, one of the big things would be our senior year Massillon Band show. I think I think that's a classic. But we. Yeah.
Right. Do you remember what was the most fun song that you did on that? If you can remember any of them.
Boy, what did we play? I talk about this all the time. We played Georgia on My Mind.
You're right on. Great
man,
time, man.
Great solo at the beginning.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
The crowd just loved it. And when
we have a drum feature in that one.
I don't think it was in 4. I think it was in the third one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. So, I think that the overall thing that I really dig about high school marching band is that you get to play great music, you play at a high level, and you get to do it with your friends.
Yeah, that's the best part.
Yeah, for sure. You're pure, but they're your friends, and it's just that ability to have that kind of fun, and yet, it's a different kind of fun because it's music, and it's and it's the energy of it, and but then you get to do it with your buds.
I think that was also probably the most unexpected thing to come of high school drumline. Was I didn't expect to have so many friends so fast. Especially as a freshman going to high school. By the time the first day of school is like I already had 20 friends throughout the school that I wouldn't have known prior.
That's large, man. That's totally large. Okay, so we're out of high school. Was there like a tough choice where you wanted to go to college, or were you pretty much set? And
I wanted to go to Ohio State. Obviously, that was for a while. That was my I'm gonna go to Ohio State. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that, and that didn't really pan out as I'd hoped. And that was okay. Obviously in the moment I was bummed, but I went on a college visit to University of Cincinnati, and that was my first real college visit.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It was a beautiful day out, fall. Man, it was like I was like, I need to go here. It was one of those.
Nice.
But I don't think, and obviously when I chose a school, I chose it for academics, obviously. But
right.
I'm like, what's the band sound like? And I'm Googling, University of Cincinnati band, YouTube, every Drumline video that had been posted at that time, I'd watched, figuring out if it was a good program or not, or if it was going to be something I'd want to do or not.
So what ended up being your major?
Yeah, so I went in and I got my degree in civil engineering.
Nice. Yeah. And was there ever a time that you thought about being a music major?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, when I was in high school, there was I don't want to say a good stretch, but, a small period of time where I was like, I think I could do that. I loved being in, band and being around, music that I thought would be something I'd want to do. But I didn't do it. That's okay.
Well, I mean, you still do it.
Yeah, I still do it. I get
you
to
do it. You do it. I mean, you also. I mean, we'll still talk about your college experience, but I mean, like, just up to date. I mean, like, you pretty much run the Wadsworth Drumline, right? You write for the Wadsworth Drumline.
Yes, I do.
I'll sit there on my chair and watch you run all this stuff, But ultimately, you also play with another group, which is the
Akron Pops Orchestra.
Akron Pops Orchestra, right? And so you play there, and you help out with Madonna. So I mean, like, you do a lot of music.
I do.
I mean, it's almost like it's your second profession. Although you really don't get paid, but I but because I really do the pay. But we do it out of love and the passion.
Sure.
But anyway, so going back to Cincinnati, who's the director of the Drumline?
So the percussion instructor, who was just the percussion instructor at the time, was the infamous Nick Angelis.
Yeah, man. And so like, what were some of the cool things that, like, kind of, for those who don't know Nick Angelis, you can look him up, right? But I mean, like, what were some of the cool things that he did that you respected, you thought that was pretty cool about him?
Yeah, so he was big into DCI, marched DCI in the mid 90s, early to mid 90s.
Yeah.
Star of Indiana, 1993. And then he was on the Broadway
Blast.
Yeah, he did Blast. DCI, solo snare drum champion,
Yeah, so he's beastly, man, for sure.
He's got chops. He's got the background. He played with, he marched Santa Clara in 1992, and that was the year that Scott Johnson was there. And Scott Johnson's the guy that's with BD right now.
Yeah, nice.
He's marched with Colin McNutt, who everybody knows and loves, is the Boston Crusaders guy, and they're buds. So
yeah, right. So what was Cincinnati's Drumline like?
They were good. Yeah, I went in and it was very much so a. I remember our first camp in the middle of summer. I was like, oh wow, this is we're not messing around.
Yeah. Did what'd you make your freshman year?
I made snare freshman year. We marched 12 snares that year.
Nice.
Half the line was freshmen.
Wow.
And I was the highest place out of all those freshmen.
Right on, man.
So
Right on.
Cool.
And then by the time you were a senior, you were then your center snare of the line, right?
Yeah. So I did 5 years of college.
Right.
4 years of marching band because the one fall I was doing an internship away from Cincinnati, obviously. So my fourth year, I split center my fourth year because we had an even number. And it was me and my two, closest friends. One ended up being my roommate. After college, we were the section leaders of, we were leaders. I wasn't the leader, but then my fifth year, my last year of college, I was the captain of the entire percussion section. So
right.
That was fun.
So, as that Drumline, you were running it, or you were, help running it. What was like, one of the more cool experiences that you had as center snare, like your last year, that you can remember that kind of topped off your collegiate marching band experience? What was one of the cool things that you did?
Well, it was a little different year because it was fall 2020, so it was the COVID year. But just the responsibility, especially at a Division I school, where the football team at the time was cranking pretty good.
Yeah, right.
I'm still mad about Luke Fickle, but whatever. It's like there's so much responsibility. It's such a high level program where you're topping almost 300 kids in the group, and everyone's playing at a high level, and the band doesn't play unless I tap them off.
Yeah, right.
We don't play stand tunes at a football game unless I tap it off.
Yeah,
There's so much, just the humble power that I had, is really cool.
Yeah, nice.
It was fun to be the guy.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to look at it, as in like the responsibility of it. And, it can be intimidating, it can be daunting, but at the same time, man, it's pretty cool.
I wasn't always good at it either. I definitely got my butt kicked, at the beginning, it was a lot of tough love, and you definitely have to have thick skin and,
Yeah, what does that mean, man, to like have thick skin? Were there times where you get...
Oh yeah, I got chewed out all the time, but it was...
All right, so I'm like, who chewed you out more? Would it be Nick Angelis or would it be Ryan E. Louie?
Definitely Nick. Definitely Nick. You chewed me out a bunch, but no, it's all, and understanding, where, no matter who your instructor is, where they're coming from, and I guess, the bigger picture of it all, and just, it's never personal. I think part of, why me and, the other core leaders that we had, as in college, why we had such success was, we didn't take it personal. We knew that it was all for the betterment of the group, and, we took it on our chin, and, we'd leave rehearsal and, be like, yeah, that was a tough rehearsal. We'd go back the next day and it'd be great, it'd be better. It's just,
right.
It's a mental game of, being, and it translates to the real world, I think.
Nice. Yeah, without a doubt. Other than, like, I guess my real world is just that.
Your real world's great.
That's it, like, playing drums, teaching drums, that whole thing. So, I think that, looking in the future, you work for ODOT, whatever, and for any of your parents or anybody that's listening, man, you drive on 480.
That's me.
That's David, man.
Yep,
whatever, any 480, man. It's all.
I don't plow the snow. I just run the construction project. So.
right. And but I tell you what, it was to be able to have you, as a student for so long, and then send you off.
8 years.
Yeah, man.
8
right?
years. Yeah.
8 years, and then sending you off to college and watching you grow. And then coming back, and then being a colleague that teaches side by side is really it's an outstanding pleasure.
It's fun.
But another really like unexpected thing about teaching. Some of the rewards are that actually they become your friends.
Yeah.
As you become an adult, and then on top of it, your hands are just like cooking, and they just kick my butt hands. And so it's like, makes me go home and either want to shed or
curl the ball.
Yeah, curl up in a ball, and be in the ball of shame. But anyway, so we're just gonna wrap things up here. I'd like to thank David for interviewing. It's kind of like I don't know, it's almost 11 o'clock at night, man. We ate some sliders, man, just hanging out a bit. But it was,
Watching some basketball.
watching some basketball. And anyway, man, it was a real pleasure to have you on.
Yeah.
And, I'll tell you what, if any of you that are listening want to respond, send it to me and I'll make sure he knows. And anyway, thanks for being on the Digg series.
I'm glad I could make it.
Right on, man. All right. And for everybody else, hey, you know what? What I love about this story is that, he started so young as a student, went through the whole program, became section leader of his high school, and then, center snare, and then became center at a really incredibly talented collegiate drumline. And I also think, at that time, Cincinnati's drumline was by far one of the best in the state. As far as collegiate drumlines go, man, you guys are certainly tanking and balling, and it's really cool. And so, it's a great testament to you, and that you're in your profession. You have. I just saw it, man. It was your certificate of license. It is.
Yeah, I got my professional engineering license.
Professional engineering. Yeah. I mean, those tests are no joke. My buddy, that's
8 hours.
Yeah, man. Right.
It's an 8-hour test.
Yeah, and so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And you know what? It's great to have you on. And everybody there, I will talk to you folks later, and we'll catch you next time on the Digg series. Truth.